as everyone is extremely worried about the escalating tension on the Korean peninsula these days. Unexpectedly, a move by North Korea has left everyone puzzled on October 18th. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol presided over an emergency security meeting and claimed that South Korea has indefinite evidence showing that North Korea has decided to send special forces soldiers on a scale of 4 brigades, totaling 12,000 people, to Russia to support the Russian army on the Ukrainian battlefield. As soon as this news came out, it was astonishing. It should be noted that although news about North Korea sending troops to Ukraine is reported from time to time in the media, it is basically just speculation by the media. Now that the South Korean intelligence agency and the South Korean president have endorsed it, could it be true? So, why would North Korea wade into the muddy waters of the Russia-Ukraine war? First of all, we need to be clear about what is the most important and crucial thing for North Korea. There is no doubt that it is maintaining the continuation of the regime. All of North Korea's domestic and foreign policies must be considered around this core then. For this core, North Korea must make efforts into aspects. First, maintain economic operation so that the North Korean people can have enough to eat. Second, maintain the military-first policy to ensure sufficient military deterrence and prevent foreign invasion. However, it is obvious that currently North Korea is facing difficulties in both of these 2 points. First, North Korea's economy is becoming more and more difficult. North Korea has a narrow and mountainous terrain and limited resources by itself, which determines its low development ceiling. If it follows an export-oriented economy like many countries, there is no need to worry about having enough food and clothing. However, due to North Korea's special situation and facing sanctions and blockades from the whole world, it is difficult for the country to conduct commodity exchanges with foreign countries, which makes North Korea's economy even worse. North Korea's GDP in 2023 is only $30 billion, accounting for only 1/56th of the total GDP of South Korea, with almost the same area in the south. It is one of the least developed countries. Economic difficulties have brought a series of problems. First of all, there is not enough funds to develop industry, so it is impossible to obtain foreign exchange through the export of industrial products. Without foreign exchange, naturally it is impossible to buy oil and fertilizers, and then the grain output cannot be increased at all. Why could North Korea achieve self-sufficiency in grain in the 1970s? It is because at that time, the Soviet Union provided North Korea with a large amount of cheap oil and fertilizers. At the same time, countries such as East Germany, Poland, and Hungary also provided North Korea with tens of thousands of agricultural machinery through the channels of the Council for Mutual Economic Assistance, helping North Korea quickly realize the mechanization of agriculture and double grain production. But now, where does North Korea get the money to buy oil and fertilizers? Without being able to buy oil, agricultural machinery cannot be provided with fuel, and a large number of agricultural machinery are stalled and cannot move. Coupled with a reduction in fertilizer supply, a reduction in grain production is inevitable. Therefore, after the arduous march, North Korea's grain problem has never been completely solved. In addition to exchanging coal and ores with China for some grain, it can only seek humanitarian assistance from international organizations. However, since North Korea closed its borders in 2020, such international organization assistance plans have basically stagnated. Coupled with the fact that North Korea has been plagued by disasters in recent years, sometimes droughts and sometimes floods, the cultivated land flooded by floods along the Yalu River this year has not been restored yet. It is generally believed that North Korea will be short of 25% of grain this year. When people don't have enough to eat, shouting any slogans is useless, and society will not be stable. Therefore, North Korea must find a new grain supply channel to help itself tide over the difficulties. Second, military equipment is becoming more and more backward. Although North Korea's nuclear weapons and missiles are frequently on the trending topics every day, in terms of conventional weapons, the generation gap with South Korea is even greater than the gap between China and the West in the 1980s. In case of a conventional war, facing South Korea's more than 2,000 third-generation tanks and more than 300 third-generation and fourth-generation aircraft F-35, there is almost no chance of winning. Then what about nuclear weapons? Sorry. That is the last means of guarantee and cannot be used casually. Since a war cannot be won, North Korea's only way out is to regard itself as a geopolitical fulcrum, make some noise, and then take advantage of the state of mutual checks and balances among major powers and seek survival in the cracks of the great power game. In fact, North Korea is very afraid that the world will forget it. Once the world forgets it, it will be even more difficult for it to obtain economic assistance from the world. Therefore, it often has to do something. Sometimes there is a military parade, sometimes missile tests, sometimes a nuclear explosion, and sometimes a skirmish with South Korea to attract the attention of major powers and ask for some grain assistance during negotiation opportunities. Playing like this is actually the same as a child crying to attract adult attention and exchange for benefits. But the problem is that the United States has increasingly seen through North Korea's tricks and will no longer be fooled. Therefore, after Biden came to power, he changed Trump's engagement policy and left North Korea aside. With no contact, no assistance, and no response. Then what should we do? North Korea must find a way to make the United States pay attention to it. The simplest solution is to form a nuclear deterrence against the United States and force the United States to come and talk to it. This is the fundamental reason why North Korea is obsessed with developing intercontinental missiles such as Hwasong-15, Hwasong-17, and Hwasong-18. But here comes the problem. Although North Korea has initially formed a nuclear deterrence against the United States, this nuclear deterrence is lame. First, North Korea's intercontinental missiles are still relatively backward in performance and are powerless in the face of the U.S. anti-missile system. Second, North Korea's nuclear weapons are too weak in power. So far, it has not broken through the threshold of hydrogen bombs, and its nuclear deterrence ability is insufficient. Third, North Korea's second strike nuclear capability is not enough. At present, the only nuclear missile submarine it has is conventionally powered, and there is no nuclear-powered submarine. If these problems are solved by North Korea itself, it may take a long time. Coincidentally, Russia can solve these two difficult problems for North Korea. On the one hand, Russia is the world's second-largest oil exporter, the world's third-largest grain exporter, and also the world's largest nitrogen fertilizer exporter, the world's second-largest potash fertilizer exporter, and the export volume of phosphate fertilizer ranks third in the world. The grain, crude oil and fertilizers that North Korea needs can all be provided by Russia, and the price is definitely lower than the international market price. On the other hand, whether it is intercontinental missile technology, hydrogen bomb technology and the technology of mini-A-Terezing nuclear warheads, or submarine technology, Russia has a sufficiently rich heritage. If it can get Russia's support, these problems will not be problems. Even more coincidentally, North Korea also has something that Russia urgently needs: ammunition and people. Needless to say about ammunition, the artillery production capacity of dozens of Western countries cannot supply Ukraine alone. The situation is similar on the Russian side. Artillery shells cannot be fired freely all the time. So Russia thought of North Korea. North Korea is also a country that advocates a large artillery force. There is no way, in previous years, Only artillery could pose a threat to Seoul. At present, the North Korean army is equipped with more than 20,000 artillery pieces of various calibers in total. Moreover, North Korea's artillery equipment is basically self-sufficient. Both artillery and ammunition reserves are very sufficient. The most crucial thing is that most of these reserve artillery shells are of 122 millimeters, 130 millimeters, and 152 millimeters calibers, which are completely compatible with the artillery caliber S of Russia. That is to say, Russia can fire these artillery shells as soon as it gets them. On the one hand, it supports the war. On the other hand, it buys some time for the increase of domestic artillery production capacity. Therefore, last year, Shoigu led an unprecedentedly large military delegation to visit North Korea and also visited North Korea's weapons and equipment exhibition. Obviously, they came to inspect the goods and place orders. According to the figures of the South Korean Intelligence Department, North Korea has shipped at least 13,000 containers full of ammunition to Russia. And people are even simpler. On October 11, 2024, the Russian independent media Zona, by collating obituaries posted by relatives of the deceased on social networks, information publicly released by media and official websites in various regions of Russia, counted that since the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war, 72,899 Russian soldiers have died, calculated according to the general casualty ratio of 5:1. The number of Russian soldiers injured may be around 350,000 to 400,000. This is a very large number for Russia. Not to mention the cost of pensions. Even the protests of the families of fallen soldiers make Putin very uncomfortable. Therefore, Russia is now in urgent need of frontline infantry, and it is very urgent. Coincidentally, North Korea has a large military force. The total strength is about 1.32 million people, ranking 4th in the world. There are also 1.4 million reserve troops. Although the equipment is a bit backward, it is most suitable to be used as infantry for filling the front lines without the need for heavy equipment. Moreover, the North Korean special forces are highly combat effective, whether in terms of organization, discipline or combat skills. They are far stronger than conscripts and mercenaries. Maybe they will bring some surprises. Perhaps it is precisely because of the perfect fit of the urgent needs of the two countries that we have seen the sharp warming of Russia-North Korea relations since last year. The two sides have carried out a series of cooperation. The leaders of the two sides also signed the Treaty on Russia-North Korea Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Article 4 of it stipulates, if one party is subjected to armed attacks by one or several countries and is in a state of war, the other party will immediately provide military assistance to the former by all available means. In this way, it is not surprising that North Korea sends troops to Ukraine. According to South Korea, the 12,000 people supporting Russia come from the 11th Special Corps of the North Korean People's Army, also known as the Storm Corps. It is expanded on the basis of a part of the original North Korean 8th Corps. The history of the 8th Corps can be traced back to the Korean War period and has played an important role in all previous conflicts. The unit that raided the political center of South Korea, Gyeonghwa-dae, in 1968 was the 124th unit under the original 8th Corps. So, how will Russia use such a powerful army? The first possibility, and also the simplest one, is to use the North Korean troops concentratedly. After all, the original task of the light infantry brigades of the North Korean Special Forces is to infiltrate into the enemy's defense depth 35 to 70 kilometers behind the front line of the direct war area, capture or destroy the military targets where the enemy stores heavy weapons, encircle the enemy's defensive positions and surround or flank attack them, disrupt the enemy's actions, and blow up bridges, tunnels, energy systems, etc. on the enemy's advancing road. This combat mode is actually very similar to the current tactical needs of the Russian army. They all achieve changes in the overall war situation through breakthroughs at one point after another. Of course, this mode also has problems. That is, it touches the red line of the participation of foreign regular troops in formation. If North Korea wants to cover up the participation of regular troops by changing an identity card, then Poland can do it too. As long as this opening is opened, NATO will definitely use this opening to put regular troops into battle in formation to help Ukraine turn the tide of the war. Anyway, it's just a matter of a Ukrainian identity card. Just print a batch of them in large quantities. Right. So, the Russian army may also have a second possible usage: dispersed grouping. Previously, some Ukrainian media said that the 11th Guards Airborne Assault Brigade of the Russian army has formed a Beryat battalion. Although it is called the Beryat battalion, it is entirely composed of North Koreans, with a strength of up to 3,000 people. Considering that the 11th Guards Airborne Assault Brigade is stationed in Ulanud, the capital of the Beryat Republic of the Russian Federation, where there are many people of yellow race. So it is not too strange to have a unit composed of people of yellow race. Therefore, from the perspective of facilitating management and command, it seems possible to break up and distribute each North Korean battalion to various units and use it as an attack boost. Of course, there is a third possibility. That is, completely break up the formation of the North Korean army and, like all foreign mercenaries, supplement it into the Storm Z forces of various brigades that would completely use North Koreans as cannon fodder. North Korea should not agree to do this. In any case, if it is true that North Korea sends troops to Ukraine, then there is no doubt that it will deeply affect the current Russia-Ukraine war situation. And the butterfly effect it produces will also directly affect the next fate of North Korea. What will be the result of North Korea's action of gambling on national destiny? We will wait and see.